welcome. My name is Errity Green, and this is Wise Women Oracle and Tarot. And today I am bringing you a pick a card reading on your career and money. So I look forward to sharing these messages with you. If you find you enjoy this reading, I encourage you to like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive a notification every single time a new reading pops up. Of course, if you want to get to know more about me, my coaching work, as well as personal readings, you can check out those details at erritygreen.com/shop or visit the link listed below. And last but not least, if you would like to join the fun and the community over at my other YouTube channels, they are linked below, both Psychic True Crime and Wise Women Television. So from here, I will place a picture up of your 3 card piles to choose from today. You are choosing from left to right. Okay, card pile 1. This is your career and money update. Okay, card pile 1. You have been going through a time of deep healing, of deep soul connection, of deep transformation, but it almost feels like resurrection. And I feel like this has been a challenge for you because you don't know how to balance this with everyday life, with practical responsibilities, with practical constraints, all the things that you might need to do or keep up with. I feel like you either feel burdened by the healing journey, but I think it's more likely that you don't know how to just let yourself heal, to let yourself be and do what you need to do for yourself while also attending to the experience of everyday life. Because it feels like while there's a time, like right now, of course, it's a career and money reading, it feels like there's this space that's been created for you in your life, whether you liked it or not, did it or not, but there's a space that's been created in your life, and instead of letting it be or allowing that space, you've been sort of over it like a micromanager and trying to dictate how it's going to go, how it's going to look, how it's going to be. And this is you, of course, trying to make sure everything works out and trying to attend to everything that you have to as a human being and on earth, which right now requires oftentimes that. Might not be the case for all of you, but you have to pay your own bills, keep up with your own household work, your household management, maybe your kids, a family, a job, right? All these responsibilities, and it's like, okay, but I'm supposed to take out this time to heal. Cool, right? And so not that you feel bitter and resentful, like I just gave that tone, but it's like this space has been created for you to heal and for you to return to your heart and tend to your tender heart. That's what the space has been created for, and yet it hasn't really been given full permission, or it hasn't been given its full potential to truly open you and do what it's meant to do with you. Like healing has not had its way with you, or you haven't allowed it to have its full way with you because you've been focusing more on your responsibilities and they've become those are your burden. Like that's what you feel like your focus is, your duty is. And of course it's a career and money reading, so what does that tell me? You've primarily been focusing on career and money, like how to make the money, how to make ends meet, doing what you got to do, keeping a roof over your head. But it doesn't, not all of you are going to resonate with that completely, so it could be any number of things involved with career and money, but they're practical responsibilities or duties or obligations that are getting in the way of your healing journey, and or you're not allowing this full healing journey, this surrender more or less, this return to your heart. This total letting go, just fuck it, but not that kind of energy. Again, no bitter tones. That's just Errity being kind of playful and doing as I please, I guess, but it's my own expression, right, of this reading. But I make sure I offer a disclaimer when I feel like it's not totally aligned. But it could be, right? For you, it might well be that, but it's a matter of that full surrender, just letting it all go, like letting yourself be totally exposed, like an exposed nerve in the wind, like you have no idea how it's going to work out. You have no idea how it's all going to happen. You have no idea how it's all going to fall into place, but you're doing it anyway. It's, standing in the sun, standing in the rain naked, or just totally availing yourself to what God wants for you. God, Great Spirit, Cosmos, Universe, the Eternal, whatever label term you want to use, or other source, Goddess, right? But it's letting healing have its way with you and not micromanaging the space that has been created for you so hard in such a way that it limits that healing, it limits the capacity for the healing, and it kind of keeps you in an old limited, sort of archaic for you identity, because it's not who you're meant to be. It's not all you're meant to become, and yet you feel like you can't let go because you feel like it'll all fall to the ground. Now here's the thing, please trust yourself, your own discernment, your own wisdom. It's like, while the reading is telling you to fully surrender and let go, that's more of an energetic thing, a mental thing, an emotional thing, than it is just, all right, quit your job, peace, hallelujah. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Although for some of you it might look that way, and I'm certainly never going to give life advice such as that on a reading like this. With that said, energetically, emotionally, mentally, you're being asked to totally surrender, let go, and just let yourself be. You know, at some level, this might be a total avoidance of the healing, to let healing have its way with you. I feel like there's an avoidance here, some escapism going on, because if you just focus on everything else, then you don't have to like let go, and the letting go is the healing. That's what's wanted to happen to you all along, is a total surrender. And I feel like for some of you that could feel like annihilation, and again, an exposed nerve. It feels raw, it feels impossible, but that's where you're being asked to head. I feel like that's what is taking you to where you want to go, this healing, this total surrender, this letting go, this all out, surrender, dropping it all, like those attachments, the mental and emotional attachment. On the other side of this healing, this space that's been created for you. And what I mean by space, like some of you have literally been on unemployment. Some of you have literally been out of work or at home for over a year because of COVID. Something happened in your world where you were laid off or given space, or otherwise had the privilege of being more present to yourself, to your healing, to your own work, work of being you, your soul work. You've been given that opportunity, and it feels like you haven't truly let yourself be there and go there. And the life and / the universe might continue to be like sort of delivering you cards and handouts so that you can continue this work and get it kind of done. Not that there's any rush or urgency, but you still might get caught up in that old mentality, that old way of do, go, what do I have to get done? And you focus more on that than letting this healing have its way with you. There's reluctance here to actually enter that healing. And you could be scared of the healing in and of itself, but I also feel like, the fear of agony or annihilation, of opening yourself up so raw in this way, for sort of breaking your heart for it to open. Because some of you, usually when we go through healing, we're facing stuff that can be painful or emotionally challenging and or potentially traumatizing. Maybe you're working through and healing from a life after trauma or a significant trauma, whether childhood or in adulthood. And so it can be difficult to face our healing knowing that's what's on the other side, but also not even knowing. And also sometimes it's sabotage, where we know on the other side is our emotional fulfillment, is what we ultimately want, is our dream, our vision, all of that realized. And so we certainly put on the brakes for that. How can I possibly avoid what I actually want? Because humans do that, because it's so big and so profound and so meaningful, we can't even face it. It's like looking at the sun, staring at the sun for so long. It's so good that it hurts. It's like the hurt so good kind of vibe, like when we totally open our hearts to our children, and it almost can hurt, right? And so it can hurt so good, which is why we might turn away or distract ourselves or busy ourselves into these other distractions and duties, obligations, commitments. But you're making this experience more burdensome than it has to be. So you are leaving yourself out of your own healing, out of your own fulfillment, out of your own journey. It's likely subconscious. If it is conscious, it's probably because you don't know how to fix it, how to make it different, how to do different. What wants to come into greater harmony or union here is that feminine and masculine energy. So you might be someone, again, who's so used to being in your masculine energy of survival, of doing the thing, of being responsible, of honoring commitments and obligations, that you literally do not know how to be or do anything else. And that's valid, and that's challenging. And it's like, how do I become something I don't even know? Like, how do I be that? How can I become something that I don't even know? And part of it is giving yourself permission. Part of it is saying that you matter. Part of it is recognizing that you weren't meant to be here to just chop wood, carry water kind of thing. It's like, you matter. You matter well enough to live life for you, to have a quiet moment for you, to experience what it's like just to be here, just be. And so there is a permission element there oftentimes, and or healing, where like you matter well enough for it just to be about you and literally nothing else. But there's a heart healing happening here too. I mean, there's a massive, massive heart healing that's happening that does have to do with self-love, that does have to do with honoring yourself, that does have to do with recognizing how much you matter, with turning your life around for you to be the foundation versus all of your obligations, duties, responsibilities, commitments, working, providing, surviving, etc., etc. It's like that's just a role and a persona and a hat you wear because you live here on earth and it's what's required right now. That's not who you are. Who are you beyond that? Who are you really? And I feel like some of this will feel elementary for some of you who are watching this, because I feel like some of you are relatively quote unquote advanced or have been on the path for a time to where it almost feels ridiculous and redundant to hear this when you already know. And yet there's still a piece that is quote unquote missing. Of course, it's never actually missing. We are always whole in truth. And yet somewhere, some way, somehow, and I think you're going to know how, you're keeping yourself, you're preventing yourself from experiencing your own emotional fulfillment, which is what you want most, by focusing on duty, survival, scarcity, obligation, whatever. You get caught up in that, letting that be the burden instead of letting this healing happen for you. Knowing that, here's the thing, allow yourself to go deep in the feminine. You know, again, coming back to it, and you don't have to label it this way. These are just terms that I use to help us understand each other. But the deep in the feminine of the surrender, of letting go completely, of just being, of focusing on you and what does life look like when you just allow yourself to be, and to be here and to be focused on you. It's like what happens, because in the bed of that foundation, something new grows. And some of you might be like, something new? I've already worked so damn hard for everything else. I don't fucking need anything new, okay? So just FYI, it doesn't have to be new, but it just feels richer. It feels like fertile. It feels like other things. There's so much abundance here that wants to ripen and blossom and flourish for you, but you're not watering that seed and you're not giving it the sort of elements, sunshine, water, or whatever replenishment that it needs to grow because you're so focused on the other's duties and stuff like that. But it's like for you to experience something new, a new form of abundance, this emotional fulfillment that you seek, whatever that is in your career and your money, it's going to come from this bed of fertile soil, this foundation of the feminine, more so than that old masculine identity, that old masculine way, that old mask. Okay, it's going to unfold and unfurl from this bed of fertility that you avail yourself to when you let go, when you surrender, when you let things be, when you let the healing have its way with you, when you make yourself top priority, or at least, well, top or number one priority, when you decide that you matter. It's like that's the rich, fertile soil that's going to then, boom, support. It's like you've already worked so hard to build up all this other stuff. There's all this energy lying and waiting. And when you surrender, let go, let be, and just be here. And if you're scared to do that and it feels like too much and you don't know how, the message that's coming through is tell yourself for a week, I am going to emotionally and mentally completely check out. It's like I will do what I have to do and I will enjoy it while I'm there. I'll be present with it. But once I'm home, I'm home. Or once I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. Or once I'm making a meal, I'm making a meal. Once I'm sitting down for the day, I'm not answering emails. I'm not answering this. I'm not doing that. Whatever, but give yourself a time frame where your life becomes less about responsibility, obligation, duty, and commitment, and more about enjoyment, peace, fulfillment, nourishment, what feels good, what honors you, what serves you, what supports you, what fuels you. So that's the difference that you're looking at between masculine and feminine. That's the difference. And you're trying to marry those. We're not getting rid of the masculine. Those things are important. Duty, obligation, we're the ones that we choose, of course, the self-honoring, life-affirming ones. Commitment, those are valuable elements. But to become whole, we have to marry that with nourishment, fulfillment, emotional fulfillment, emotional nourishment, emotional nourishment, fulfillment, support, even intimacy, connection, right? So it's like that's the fertility. That's what gives the soil fertility. So it's like you've already built up all this energy from all the work that you've done. But if you want to see the fruits of your labor, it's only going to come from releasing, like again, that attachment, the ties, like holding on so tight to all these other things that whatever it is that feels burdensome, when you're honest with yourself, it feels dry, sterile, and mechanical, that energy is not going to get you where you want to go. You're literally just turning a gear or a wheel that's never going to get you somewhere. It needs to have that rich, fertile soil. And that's what's going to help blossom whatever it is that you seek, whatever you're trying to manifest. So how does that happen? How do you bring that energy in? Because you want to keep the masculine energy there, just not over the F do it. And it needs to have that richness on the inside. You do that through that emotional fulfillment, the emotional piece of actually entering your life, being present with the thing, not focusing so much on work, duty, obligation, commitment, enjoying yourself, finding ways to have fun. That's going to be that fertility piece that brings in, it's like, becomes that fertile soil around that seed of whatever it is you've built through the masculine that boom, then brings about this greater flourishment, maturation, development, manifestation of what it is that you've been building in your career and in money. It's like the abundance is already there. It needs to be nurtured and brought in some, it's like soil that is quote unquote dead, right? That doesn't have what it needs will never be able to create the crops or the produce or whatever it is that we seek ever. We have to go in there and till it, and we have to provide it sunshine and water, and has to be certain like number like bacteria and viruses, and I don't know how all that works, okay? But what I do know is soil has to have the right conditions for something to blossom and develop and come into its highest potential. So it's like you might have soil there, but so far the soil lacks that heart, the fact that you matter. It lacks that heart element that is all the other things feminine that we've talked about today. And so it's like dry, mechanical, it's soil, it's there. And you might be able to produce a little here, a little there, but it's really not what it needs to be in order to produce what it is that you seek. The thing is though, you have the seeds and you have the soil. You have it all there. Everything's in check. Everything's lined up to produce exactly what you want. Card pile 1 and career and money. Exactly what you want. Everything that you've worked so hard for. All the things that you've been dotting your I's and crossing your T's over all these years, however long it's been. It's all there waiting for you. What it needs now is that richness. What it needs now is like that fertility piece where you bring about this life affirming energy will come into the soil. You know what it reminds me of? Oh my gosh, you guys. This is freaking me out in a good way. The Secret Garden. Have you seen the movie The Secret Garden? If you have not, please look it up. Please watch it. It's a beautiful movie, a classic movie, classic film. Of course, it was a book, and I'm sure many iterations of a book and a movie, but the one I'm talking about is from the early 90s, I think. And this is the exact sort of symbol that I'm being given. And no kidding, your final card is a Zen garden and the change that wants to come through. But I'm going to get to that. And so it's all lining up. Bing, 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 bing. You know, it's all turning on. Everything's coming online. So the movie The Secret Garden, more or less, this garden has become a wasteland. You know, it hasn't been attended to. It hasn't been tended to. No one's been in there. It's been sort of locked up. It's been like a long winter for this garden. Despite spring and summer having come and gone many years over, this garden has remained dead and lifeless. Okay, but it's not dead and lifeless. It can come to life, but it needs life-affirming energy. It almost makes me cry. It needs joy. It needs innocence. It needs adventure. It needs make-believe. It needs magic. It needs love. You know, imagine what it's like as a child, because if you watch the movie, it's children who, it's actually one girl, but then brings about multiple children who then enter the garden and bring life back to the garden. It's not that the garden isn't there. It doesn't want to bring you the abundance. It's actually all already in place, just like that garden in the movie is already in place. I even like that it's a secret garden because it's almost like unknown. No, people aren't aware of the abundance that's there, the potential that's there, all the change that could come as a result of that garden because they haven't entered it and given it the life that it needs to flourish, to blossom. Same thing for you. You need the life-affirming energy, that fertility, in order to bring all of this, to bring it alive, to make it come alive. Everything else is already in place. But for everything to come alive, it's got to come alive. And so what's happening here? This garden, your career and money is meant to flourish, all parts of your life. Career and money as an extension of you, especially because this is so important that it's about you. And this all comes into divine flourishment or maturation. This change is underway in your life. All the things that you've been moving through, this healing. I mean, this is an incredible reading, card pile 1. This is a life-altering, life-changing reading, and you're getting it for free. I mean, I just have to throw that in there. But anyway, I'm just saying because it's so effing profound. And there, yeah, I won't dive in too much to how necessary this is to know, but it is. So for those who have chosen card pile 1. But the healing that you've been going through, and you might have been confused about, and you might have banged your head against a wall about, and you might have fought God about, you might have been so like on your knees, begging, pleading, whatever, with life itself about, fighting, you know, all the things, cursing it, condemning it, how dare you, why me? It's all been about bringing about this change. It's been about bringing this change into your life so you can become your own garden, so that you can experience life, zest, vitality, life force, life affirming energy, love, joy, play, lightness, innocence, laughter, magic. When you enter this space, that's when everything begins to, just everything blossoms, just like the movie in Secret Garden. Just needed that life force, that life affirming energy that the children brought through their own innocence, through their play, through their adventure, and everything came to life. That's what's happening to you, for you, alongside you, with you. So the message that's coming through, huge for you, card pile 1, is letting go. Letting go of, it's again, you might have to attend to your duties and responsibilities. That's okay, but a space has been created. Allow that space to do what it's trying to do for you, which again is to heal you and bring about this greater alchemy and change that shifts you from basically a workhorse that is just a cog in the wheel of dry mechanical slave to the system, to yourself, to survival, and to becoming a goddess, something that brings life to life. You are affirmed, then you're able to affirm others. You become a source of this energy. But life wants to affirm you. Life affirming energy wants to come through you, for others, again, you could even become a garden where, again, you are so abundant. Now you have plenty of abundance to give, but it's because you've opened the door to life itself too. That has to happen first. And whatever you've been waiting for and waiting on, this is all that's been waiting this whole time. It's been on you allowing yourself to completely let go, to surrender to the space that's been made available to you, and to trust life enough to let go, to bring life in so that you can enjoy life, experience life, receive life, and then eventually you'll also be able to give life, because you will come into a place of incredible abundance, just like the Secret Garden. Card pile 1, I must hear from you. Well, yeah, not another duty and obligation, an invitation with enthusiasm that you're welcome to decline or accept, and share your story in the comments. You were never meant to be a cog in the wheel. You were never meant to be a slave to your obligations, to your duties, to your responsibilities. It was always meant to be in service to life itself. Life for you, life for others, life with a capital L, but definitely life. I don't know how else to describe it. There's an aliveness here that wants to come through in all the ways that we discussed. It all wants to come through, and everything comes to life once you allow it, once you give that permission. You just got to let go. Allow that life to come in. By letting go, it means focusing on the things that are life affirming, that are joy, that bring innocence, play, laughter, magic. Letting go enough to enter that space, and then everything opens up for you. The whole universe literally unveils itself to you. Card pile 1, I want to hear from you. If you want to share. Do like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new reading pops up. If you want to get to know more about me, my coaching work, personal readings, you can check out those details, erritygreen.com/shop, or you'll find the link below. Last but not least, I have 2 other fun YouTube channels, Psychic True Crime and Wise Women Television. Go ahead and join us over there. So subscribe to that community, and I will see you there and here. Thank you, card pile 1. Until next time. All right, card pile 2. Your career and money reading. Let me see if I can change this up a little bit. So first thing that's coming up is like you've been on the path for a while, probably working on the thing, doing on the thing, whatever it is you're trying to create, to manifest, to experience in terms of career and money. It feels like you have had some dogged determination. Again, you've been walking the path for a while. This isn't something that's brand new. Now for some of you, you might be seeking new direction, new insight, sort of new dose of life in your field, in your career with money. But all in all, it feels like you have put in some time, some work, some effort. So right off the bat, you've been on the path for a while, but you might be seeking new insight, and perhaps that's perhaps that's why you're here. It's not going to be the case for everybody, but that's something that came up right away. And I'm feeling like something might have occurred in terms of your career and money, because we do have a loss here. We have a loss card that's telling us that you've lost something. So what's interesting is I feel like some of you might have lost, we always think we lose something in form, okay, in physical form, like something tangible, but in truth, it's something we've lost in ourselves. So I'd like for you to explore that, because that's what's coming up in the reading. It's like it's not even telling me like what it is that you lost in physical form. So it could be any number of things, because I feel like it could be easy to say that directly, explicitly was something like a job. For many people, we did lose jobs during the COVID era. So it's very possible that that happened to you. For some of you, it could have been before that. It could have been a loss of money, a loss of a job, a loss of a business. However, I will say the energy is not limited to that. It could have been the loss of something else outside of the area or the domain of career and money that still has affected you and your energy. And that's what I'm saying is it's not really always about what happens in form. It's about what happens inside of us. So, and that goes for all trauma or challenge or experience, right? And we've probably seen that circulating online in one way or another. It's never really about the thing. It's about what's happening inside of us. So whether it's with a partner or whether it's with an interaction or business or money, it's not about the thing. It's about our relationship to the thing, what's happening inside of us because of the thing. So that's sort of a random tidbit, but how it's related to this is something happened and there was something that was lost within this experience that is now being asked to reintegrate or return. So as a result of this loss, I feel like what happened was something changed inside of you to where now you feel like maybe you're not able to regain traction or regain your footing, or maybe you don't trust yourself as well. Maybe you're not as confident. Maybe you don't value or see yourself as clearly or as worthy as you once did. So there could be self-doubt now. There could be, again, a lack of confidence, but something was lost here that almost wants to be found. Now, my curiosity, and we'll discover it as we move through the reading because I haven't gotten the information yet, is, what wants to be integrated. But I feel like whatever this change was, whatever this loss was, whatever this healing is, that needs to come to a close. And not that we have to be perfect and everything has to be just so and all in order for things to happen or be ripened or for us to experience something in our lives. I don't ever want to act like everything has to be just so for things to arrive. But it's like there is this message here of there was a loss and there's still a healing happening or an integration happening with this, but you can encourage that along. I just did another reading and I don't think it was this one. I think it was another one I recorded where it was talking about sort of active healing and passive healing and how healing and evolution and growth will always happen. It's something that's unavoidable and inevitable. We can't undo it. It's how the divine forces of this universe work. We're always moved toward our healing, but we can either be passive in it, totally unconscious and unaware, being sort of thrown about the ocean here and there and everywhere, and sort of like a buoy or whatever in the ocean. We're just like bopping here, bopping there. Everything feels crazy, chaotic. We're hitting rock bottoms. Who knows what? Or we can be active. We can be engaged, and we can be aware and conscious and intentional. And I feel like you are aware, conscious, conscious, and intentional, or otherwise are becoming conscious now of this particular fact, now that you're here on this pile and receiving this message. But it's like this integration is what wants to happen, this healing sort of coming to a close or sort of being complete within you so that you can move into your next chapter, because you're bringing the energy of this old chapter of loss into the present and then wanting a gain. So it's like you might be seeking for yourself to receive the fruits of your labor or to experience the reaping of your rewards, and you feel like you've worked really hard to be on the path for a while. I don't feel like someone I don't feel the energy of someone who's so hard and so exhausted and downtrodden and burdened by something, and they just feel like they've done it all. And you might be there or have done that, but I don't feel that energy, which is good. That means, again, it's not always what we do, it's how we feel about it or what's going on inside. So it's a good thing you're not carrying it in that way, because that could, kind of add to the weight, kind of any emotional baggage that we carry with us, which is natural. And there's no judgment of ourselves in that. It's just a part of being human. It's the nature of the beast. But I do feel this energy of having been on the path for a while, like you've done the things, you've put in your time, right? You've paid your dues. And so it's like, okay, so obviously you're even here, and even the card is like showing me like I'm doing this, and right. And again, even some of you are seeking new insight, new direction, payoff, even reward, fruit of your labor, something to come as a result of your things. And so this healing needs to come to a close. It's being asked, any wound ultimately wants to heal. And again, we will evolve and grow no matter what. But the more active, intentional, and conscious we are, the easier that path is. Sometimes even the more accelerated it is. And so you'll want to bring this, kind of like the Wheel of Fortune, you want to bring this chapter to a close. And if you haven't found closure, find a way to create closure. Is that through ritual, ceremony, working with someone, going to a therapist, getting a mentor, a support system? It can be as simple as journaling and deciding that you're through and moving through the energy, saying what you need to say, feeling what needs to be felt, releasing what needs to be released, forgiving what needs to be forgiven. Some of you, you're taking it up with God, with life. There's no even person to forgive. So if that's the case, so be it. Whether it's journaling, ritual, ceremony, it can be as simple as that, but it can be as drawn out as or intensive as working with someone actively for a time and giving yourself space to be able to work through something like this. In some, you're carrying this energy of loss, of disappointment, even this gravity, this weight with you into the present that I don't want to say it's preventing anything from happening. It's almost like I feel, again, it's been a change in you, right? So there's energy that's been zapped, zest that's been zapped, motivation that's been lost, passion that's been lost. Your heart maybe isn't in it as much as it was before. You're not fully present with it the way that you once were. You're not as confident. You're not as enthusiastic. You're not as self-trusting. So all of that, I feel like that kind of energy has sort of been it's held hostage more or less by this wound. And then once that's healed, once that's quote unquote cleared or whatever, once that wound heals, all that other energy can be freed up and returned to you in a higher energy form, so to speak. Not that there's any hierarchy, but what it reminds me of is when we scrape our knee, our bodies send whatever it needs to that knee, oxygen-rich blood, white blood cells, so on and so forth. They go to that knee like troops, and they are doing what needs to be done. The resources are brought to that knee in order to bring about that healing. And so it kind of reminds me of when we have a wound emotionally, our resources are sort of zapped with that, sort of taking on that. Our focus is there, our attention is there. And once we're able to properly move through that, navigate it, walk out the other side, a lot of that energy that was once freed up and held back or bound by or whatever, that wound is freed up. We're no longer carrying a weight on our shoulders. That backpack is no longer burdening us. So there is something here when you're asking about career and money and you're asking for an update, you're asking for what's to happen. Usually people come to a reading like this because they're seeking guidance, they're seeking insight, they're seeking clarity, and or they want to know what, when, and how. When am I going to be able to get this? What do I have to do? How is it going to happen? Whatever. And it's like, and I think some of you just want validation or just want kind of a temperature check, and that's fine too. But it's saying you've been on the path for a while, you're doing the thing, but there is this old energy that you're still carrying with you. And that healing, once it comes to a close, once there's this greater integration here, you'll be able to move forward with less baggage, and you'll have more of those inner qualities that support a greater manifestation. So let's say that we're someone who is really confident, we're enthusiastic, we feel like we're on top of the world, we are feeling our best, living our best lives, so to speak. But I want to say in a substantial way, like we're talking substance. We're not just talking about like laptop lifestyle all over the internet, strike a pose on Instagram. I mean, those things can be true too, but I'm saying like we're saying legit, genuine fulfillment experience of these qualities. Not just faking it for the internet to make a buck, not that. But head to toe, this is real, skin to soul. You're in that vibe where it's much easier to manifest something than it is when we're feeling down, downtrodden, lack of motivation, we don't feel it, there's no zest, there's no life, there's no enthusiasm, there's no passion, there's little heart, you're just doing it because you have to do it. You're kind of showing up and clocking in, but that's about it. Is it dry? Is it mechanical? Is it sterile? Is there life to this? And you might even check out card pile 1. That could be relevant for you, card pile 2. It feels like a very different track, but also similar in some ways. So that might be something to explore in the event that you notice yourself being drawn back and forth, and or if you hear this now, it might be relevant for you to check that out too. And it might become clearer as we go, and you'll be able to discern that for yourself. But all in all, there's this need for greater enthusiasm, zest, passion, life, confidence, love of it. And if that's not there, it is more difficult to manifest. And where is that love? Where has it gone? Where is that passion, that enthusiasm? It's sort of been swallowed by this wound. So that chapter needs to come to a close. If it doesn't tell us, I will want to pull a card on how do you reconcile with this then? How do you heal? Now, card pile 1 went very deep into how they heal. And so again, that might be relevant to you, but I do feel like we've taken a little bit of a different track in your pile. So I don't want to jump the gun and suggest that that's going to be the case for everybody. So let's see here. Part of your work in the healing of this wound and or just moving forward in career and money in general is about stepping into your higher self and all of this. So not letting yourself get too caught up in the ideas or stories or narratives of the ego when we make things about us and we take everything personally and we turn it into a whole story about our own victimhood. And it doesn't mean that we aren't victimized in this life. We are. But there's a difference between fact and feeling, right? Something can happen to us. That happens to us. There's nothing we can do. We were victimized. We can't undo it. We can't take it back. We were legitimately hurt, stolen, taken from, abandoned, betrayed, whatever. That's a reality. But the fact versus the feeling, right? So when we come over here about what's inside of us, are we then telling ourselves that we can't trust anymore, that we'll always be betrayed, that no one ever loved us, no one ever does love us, no one supports us, there's no one here, I'll never figure it out, it's not going to happen for me? So do you see the difference? Now, I'm not feeling a tons of victimhood energy in here, but I am saying this message is about coming into truth beyond illusion, truth beyond ego, truth beyond the stories and even the experiences in the human condition, beyond duality. It's like really coming into this place within yourself of higher wisdom, of deeper truth, of coming into your high self, true self, higher self, soul, so you can look at this situation more clearly or most clearly. What is coming to mind for me now, and this might be relevant for some of you, if you have heard of it before, there is a book. There's also a website called Radical Acceptance. I'm hoping that's the URL. If not, I'm sure the keyword will come up for you and you'll be able to find the website one way or another. But there is a man who now has cancer. I don't know where he's at with that on his journey, but he did write a book on radical acceptance and many derivatives of that. And he has a website, and many of his resources are still free on that website. And you sign up, it's a free account, and it takes you through worksheets that you can either print out or fill out electronically, and it helps you come into higher perspective. Now, if you go in sort of trying to see the higher perspective right off the get-go, I wouldn't be forcing it or pushing that, because then you're going to get in the way of the sort of creative or emotional process that needs to happen through those worksheets, through the process they take you through. And that goes for life too. If we jump in too quick with logic, with the mind, with the ideas, the rules, how it's supposed to go, protocols, formulas, we can get in the way of our natural creative flow, evolutionary process, and emotional processing that would happen all on its own if we weren't like putting our mind in there. It goes through its own stages of grief, so to speak. When we leave something alone, like a human, as an example here, we're human. When we leave something alone and let it be, there's a process that they naturally go through, like the stages of grief, for example, that don't really require our mind to really know anything. And so when we try putting the mind in there, it can interfere and kind of throw us off, or it's just not as natural to the process, and it's not always exactly what we want. We want what needs to come up from the wellspring of ourselves. That's where we're going to get what we really need, that kernel of truth, whatever it is that we're seeking. Because of this healing, there's something here that wants to be known, to be realized, something that wants to be released in order for you to integrate, fully heal, and come into greater closure and peace and reconciliation or resolve with this. And so coming from the mind is just sort of guesswork. I think it should be this, or it might be that. That's all just poop, for lack of a better term. Put it up on the shelf. Mind, you're going to take a back seat for a hot second, but you enter, whether you do this on your own and let life sort of organically present this process to you, because it will all happen naturally all on its own, but we can be an active and engaged participant in our healing. And so if you want to do that, you can go to Radical Acceptance. And the reason why this felt relevant is because he does bring you into a process to be able to gain clarity or perspective from your higher self, or at least from a higher perspective, a deeper truth. to where you can gain insight that you might not otherwise be able to discover, uncover from your own ego. Because of course, ego is trapped within the confines of ego, and it can't see outside of ego unless it becomes God, Great Spirit, Cosmos, Universe. Unless it enters the collective consciousness, unless it enters non-local reality, source, spirit, ether, we're just gonna be living in here and assuming our projections are the truth, and they're simply not. So that is one way. It takes you through a process. I believe that's radicalacceptance.com. If not, maybe someone will find it and put it in the comments for you. But I feel like once you come into this, it's really just coming into your own knowing, your own truth, your own center. That's where sort of any additional insights, clarity, whatever it is that needs to emerge in your own creative process to bring you into this higher potential that you seek in your career and money, that's where all of that's going to come from. Now, the thing is, though, it's taking you back to your soul, taking you back to source, taking you back to the truth. You know, it's almost like there's a wound, and then beneath all of that, there's a deeper truth, right? No mud, no lotus. And it's like we discover the lotus, the kernel, the seed, whatever it is, when we allow ourselves to move through that healing. There's something there that wants to be discovered, but then support you to come back into your full whole self. And I think that's part of it too, is once this healing chapter or whatever it is comes to a close, you are able to step back into sort of your whole self, true self, full self, authentic self. And then you do have that zest. You do have that life force energy. You do have that creativity. You are tapped into your genius. You are connected to your enthusiasm, to life itself, to passion, to all of those things. But you still have the weight of the past and this baggage or this emotional lost sort of sitting there and hanging in your field. And it's like the past, when it's still in your field, it might feel hard or difficult to manifest something new in the present and the future when you're literally bringing the past with you. So that would need to heal in order to bring about the next chapter, the next era, whatever it is, the next level within your experience. But I do want to ask how you heal it. I mean, I know we've given some examples, but I like to dive a little bit deeper in that. Yeah, it's coming into greater understanding deep within yourself with this wounding, okay? Because again, it was always about what was happening inside of you and what we hear on the internet, but it's also been from thought leaders and authors and a lot of wisdom teachers, is it's about what you make it mean. What have you made this mean about you? This loss, this experience of disappointment, what have you made it mean about life? About what stories have you created, what new beliefs, it's like that kind of stuff that's zapping you. So if something can happen, right? There's fact that happens. We can be victimized, but it's how it continues to carry into the present. We only carry it into the present based on our stories. There's a mindset that locks that energy in place. A lot of people believe that it's all somatic, emotional within the body, and that either it doesn't require the mind, or the mindset is irrelevant, or the psyche is irrelevant, or whatever. But I have very much seen it's a certain perspective or perception that tends to lock wounding in place, or energy, emotional baggage, or emotional blockages in place. And once that perspective shifts, or that perception shifts, the energy is released, and naturally is released, unless we hold on to it again with either a new mindset or fear, or maybe we've come to know that identity so well we're scared to lose it, and so we hold on to it. But otherwise it leaves once that perception is shifted. There is another perception and perspective available here for you that's more true to a higher wisdom, again, your higher self, than perhaps what your ego could perceive. And once you're able to step into that place, shift that perspective, that perception, this energy can leave. And again, whether it's journaling, ritual, ceremony to help you get to that place, or radical acceptance, you might try each of those and see, because that's when your creative genius, your next level, all of that flow opens up again, including those life-affirming qualities to bring you into that next phase, the next era, the next season. It's greater wisdom, knowledge, and spiritual understanding. And we even have the silence card here. We also have source. Oops. So silence for me means, again, getting beyond the narratives, the stories, the ideas, all the things that we kind of made this mean, what happened inside of us as a result of this, because that's what wants to be untethered and released, so that all this other life-affirming stuff can be reaffirmed and realized. I do feel like there's a deeper message here. I want to see if I can get something for you on how you actually heal. I feel like we got that to a degree, but let's explore it a little bit deeper if we can. Give me a moment. So the couple final messages that I got wasn't exactly to a T what I was looking for, but of course we'll trust spirit that it knows what it's doing. We don't always have to please Errity, and that's fine. So the couple things that I'm getting here is that with that wounding, a lot of things died. And what wants to be looked at is what died, and you might even ask yourself why, if it feels like it's relevant. Okay, I never say shadow work for the sake of shadow work. Do it if you feel called, if it feels necessary, if the energy is taking you there. But a lot of parts of you died. What parts of you died? Then I want you to take a look at what is being birthed in its place. Because there were some old parts of you that were becoming obsolete or that were no longer relevant, ego, identity, parts of your personality, whatever, just our patterns and programming from childhood, from our conditioning that likely wanted to die. Well, they don't want to die, but our soul at times requires certain things to expire so that we can move into new territory, new horizons, new frontiers. Okay? So I would take a look at what that is, the death that occurred, and what that meant to you. And from there, I would like you to explore what is being birthed or what has been birthed in its place. Because what wants to come through, again, is this higher version, this higher self, this higher version of you, this greater potential of you that can realize greater abundance in your career and money, that can realize its greater purpose path, its higher potentials in all of these domains around career and money, and then some, all the other things too. And yet, that weight of that wound is still being carried such that it hasn't fully died yet. Those things haven't died. And in fact, not only did the old things not die, they're sort of maybe even amplified because of the fear and the upset and the grief or whatever. And then on top of that, the parts of you that you might like or enjoy or appreciate or require on the next phase of your journey, like confidence, zest, enthusiasm, have also died. And it's like, well, no, you want to bring those back to life. So there's a resurrection that wants to happen here. And I think there's some juice and some substance and some worthwhileness, that's not a word, it is right now, and exploring what died that day. I don't know what you're going to find, but I think it's going to be individual to each of you, and it is relevant to this healing, so that you can either close out that chapter and let all that stuff go and start again. Well, not either. I mean, that's really the point, right? Because even when someone, a human in our lives, dies, there's something relevant to that, meaning like it's different because they've died and it's permanent and they're not around anymore. So even though we have tons of grief around it, we know that they died, we know they're not there anymore, and there is some sense of closure. Usually, if it's not like a missing person situation, we don't know why they died, there is closure and we can move on in that way. In this case, it's almost like you might not even have looked at completely or been 100% on what it is that died and its value to you or not or whatever. And I think it's going to be something inside of you. Again, you might look at what died in form, but also take a look on what died on the inside and also what's being reborn. There's also this level of trust too, of stepping into total and full trust with the divine, God, Great Spirit, Cosmos, Universe, Source, our higher selves, and recognizing the things that happen to us in limitation are only meant to bring us into greater limitlessness. They're only meant to help us realize our greater potentials. And if anything else occurs, it's something of our own doing. So we've put a story on it. We've made it harder. We've been tripping over ourselves. We're the ones in our own way, because everything that happens is bringing us to our higher potentials, what it is that we truly want, right? That we can trust that's always happening. If something is ever in the way, it's us in our own way. So once we realize that, we realize it's our mindset, it's our narrative, it's our programming, it's what we made it mean about us, it's what we sort of constructed out of what happened. Like, those are the pieces to be looking at that are going to help you so that you can make the decision to no longer attach to that, engage with that, affirm it, uphold it as a part of your truth, as a part of your belief system, as a part of your present and future. Because there is a death that wants to happen, but then close it out, and then you move forward, as opposed to continuing to carry that energy with you today. Let me see if there's any final, I just feel like there could be something more. Maybe it's one of those things where nothing else needs to happen. Yeah. First of all, nothing. Errity, stop. I feel like that's kind of what that card was saying, but not necessarily. Coming into your greater self-mastery. Again, coming into higher self, truth, knowingness, wisdom, spiritual understanding. But I do feel there's a message here of releasing the old stories, not getting too caught up in that. And then there was something else here. One moment. So yeah, there's the message of making peace with it, because once you realize, okay, what died that day, even if something did die in you, whatever it is, out here and here, whatever, you're just getting clarity on it so you can make peace with it, and you can give it its proper burial and move on. Just about making peace with it, versus when, again, something can happen, but we carry it on. We bring the drama into the moment. We carry all that baggage with us. We continue to make it a burden, because usually it's because we've made it mean something about ourselves, or it's something we're telling ourselves, or whatever. That's the stuff that wants to be released in service to this new growth, this greater potential. There could be more here for you. I will let this reading be. And if anyone feels like there is something here for them more personally, of course, you can always get a personal reading. Card pile 2. Your career and money update is all about releasing the emotional baggage, any wounding of the past that has led to you feeling not so much like yourself, might have led to a loss of different qualities or aspects or parts of yourself, as well as any form on the outside that could have also been lost. It's about making peace with this so that you can carry on and step into the future as your full whole self, not carrying the past into the now. It's about releasing that and stepping into the now. We did ask how we do that, and we talked about some different ways, including radical acceptance, ritual, ceremony. Was there anything else? Being able to see beyond illusion, see beyond the limitations of the ego. Some of us may require some support, but at the end of the day, it's just making peace with it so this can heal / integrate and you can carry forward. So thank you, card pile 2. If this resonates, I encourage you to share below. I'd love to hear your story. Do like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new reading pops up. If you'd like to get to know more about me, my work, coaching programs, as well as personal readings, you can visit erritygreen.com/shop or my link below. And I do have 2 other YouTube channels, Psychic True Crime and Wise Women Television. You can join us over there and become a part of those communities. Thank you, card pile 2. All right, card pile 3, your career and money update. So I feel like you are being guided toward a truer calling for you. This could be relevant to your purpose path, your life's work, where you actually want to go, what you want to do with your life, how you want to contribute, how you want to serve. I feel like you are being guided. You've received an insight, an inspiration, direction, something, and yet you're not allowing yourself to move forward. So I feel like there's some reluctance or hesitation here. I feel like there could be a celebration in order, because you have clarity, you have insight. Now you have an idea, or at least a general idea, or some kind of clarity, or now you know, and yet you're not allowing yourself to fully go there. I feel like you have some stories or ideas around why it can't happen, or why it can't happen right now, or why it can't happen for you, or why things won't add up, or how it's not possible. I feel like there's a lot of things in the way, you being in your own way, about how this could actually work or be realized, and so you sort of shelved it, put it on the back burner, and yet the message has been there. It arrived and is there, and whether or not you are tending to it right now is, of course, ultimately your choice, but it feels like you're looking for clarity. You want something more purposeful. You want something truer to your deeper contribution, your higher calling, what it is that you're meant to step into, what you're meant to do in your life, how you're meant to serve, something closer to your greater potential, and yet you're not allowing yourself to go there for one reason or another. There's some reluctance or some hesitation. I think it's tied to the stories that you have around why you can't, or why it can't happen for you, or why not now, and so on and so forth. What I first want to say is it's ultimately up to you. You have the free will, the sovereignty, the divine choice to move forward into this whenever, if ever. You get to decide to do it now or later. But here's the thing. There's a part of you that's saying, I want blank. I want a more purposeful, truer, authentic, more meaningful career for me. I want something that is truer for me and gives me the freedom and aligns with my values, my belief system. I want something that I'm passionate about. I want something where I can actually serve and make a difference. I want something that provides for me and provides well for me, and it's a mutual benefit to those I serve and myself. So you have all these ideas and reasons as to why this must happen, but then you have an equal amount of ideas and reasons as to why it can't. And so you're being told today that that's your own stuff. This isn't necessarily a truth. It's not necessarily true that you can't do it, or that it won't happen for you, or that it can't happen for you. That's your truth. Like, that's what you're saying, but it's not actually true. So it's actually you in your own way, getting yourself in your own way as to why it can't happen, why you can't do it, why it won't work out for you, so on and so forth. It's saying there is something here around feeling outside of the box, looking outside of the box, being a little bit outrageous. There's someone, I took her course, this is, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago now, I don't know. And I don't think she does coaching anymore, but her name's Maru Ayabachella, and I don't know how to enunciate perfectly her last name, nor do I know how to spell it completely, but her name's Maru. Find her on Facebook, but like I said, she no longer coaches. But she did a course called Infinite Receiving, however many years ago. And she talked about, I know that I was before I had my son. So, I don't know, between 6 and 10 years ago is my best guess. And she talks about, you know, when you tell yourself you can't have something or can't do something or something can't work out or won't work out or some kind of limitation on it, the first thing you need to do is just explore with curiosity, not with demand, pressure, and burden and expectation, but just explore outrageous possibilities. Like, let's just say you want to make more money, as an example. Literally write down 100 outrageous ways you could receive or create more money. It might be like, I sell my house to the neighbor down the street. It might be the president himself signs a check to me for $20,000. It might be I win the state lottery tomorrow. Like, it could be as realistic or as outrageous. And the whole point is to be outrageous, right? Because all you're doing is breaking through the barriers of your own mind, your own perception, your own perspective, so you can begin to see things with a broader perspective, a broader lens, which really is where the clarity and the truth lies. It's always in something broader, bigger, something that we usually can't even fathom in our human minds. It's certainly not going to be limited to our own single egoic truth. That's the freaking truth, especially with our own conditioning and our self-imposed limitations and where we came from, what we were taught and told. It's like anything that comes up in here, we can just assume is bogus or BS, right? Generally speaking, we can give ourselves probably a little bit more credit than that, but you know what I mean. Our whole life is unlearning all of that, unraveling all that to find those deeper truths. And so I would list, if you want to, so I would list, say, 20, 50, whatever, however many ideas or solutions as to how you might be able to create more money, or leave this old job and step into your purpose work, or step into your purpose work more, or whatever, whatever it is you're seeking, what goal, aspiration you have for yourself that you're telling yourself you can't do, can't have, won't happen, can't happen now. What are the 100 outrageous ways that it can? And what you're going to find is, and I don't remember how Maru did it, you know, all I remember is the outrageous thing, but you're breaking through the barriers of your own mind, of your own belief systems, of your own perceptions, so you can see what's possible. All you're doing energetically there is availing yourself to new possibilities. That's all you're doing energetically. But the level of the mind, the ego, the self, you can actually look at some of those afterwards, but let yourself free reign and free roam as much as possible in the beginning. But then you can start narrowing them down. Okay, which ones do I have control over? Which ones can I kind of create the conditions for? Which actions can I take? And then you might actually start exploring 3 or 5 of those that are relevant within your current reality. Then you're going to start breaking actual physical barriers in your life. If there are any glass ceilings, start kind of shattering them, breaking through them. Start opening up the potentials that are available to you, instead of keeping them narrow to this little path that you say is all that you have. This is all that's available to me. Well, let's shatter that truth, that belief system, and let's see what else is here. So there has been some clarity, something has been received, and yet you haven't taken the action or haven't done the thing or haven't followed through or followed up because you tell yourself you can't right now, or you can't or won't or whatever. And it's saying you can decide whenever, if ever you do it, but ultimately it's up to you. And the only thing in your way right now is you, and you can do whatever the heck you want. That's really the message here. I can't even tell you. I mean, we have two cards with a dove and another one of peace. So, I mean, I feel like that's a blessing. First of all, to me, it's a blessing of saying whatever you're feeling, whatever you're sensing, whatever you're intuiting, wherever you're being guided toward is legit. This is a blessing. You know, you can take it or leave it, but it is still a gift. It's still a blessing. Yeah, it's like you do have the clarity. You know, you have some idea of what you want to do. Now, some of you are going to argue with yourselves or whatever, say, no, I don't have full clarity. But do you have enough clarity for the next step? Do you have enough clarity to argue with that you can't do it? I mean, usually, yes, we have enough clarity to argue with ourselves about it. So that means we do have some clarity, right? So it's like funny because we'll say, well, I don't know. And it's like, well, why don't you know? Well, I know it's not da-da-da. Okay, well, then clearly you have enough clarity to even argue that this isn't the case for you. You know, whether it's what you don't want to do or what you do want to do, you have an inclination And you've even gone as far as to argue with yourself about it as to why it can't work, why it can't happen, why you can't take that step. So that's your clarity. That's what you have right now. And that is a gift. That is clarity. You know, you don't want to get into the habit of denying that or disregarding it or saying, oh, that's not clarity, because it is. And you know what you want to do. You just haven't moved forward on that for all the reasons that you've told yourself you can't. But a part of your whole path here, a part of the whole point, your soul's journey with this card pile for 3 in particular, is about releasing conditioning. It's about releasing those self-imposed limitations. At the deeper level, it's about releasing what you've been taught and told, or all the ideas or ideals of which you thought you were going to be or do, or all the things that you thought you were going to do, or the expectations you had for yourself, or the expectations your family had for you, or the role you thought you were going to play, and the hat you thought you were going to wear, and the hat that people told you were going to wear. Blah, 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 blah. Like we all have that, right? In our families, they think we're going to grow up and be the CEO of a company. They think that we're going to grow up to be some great inventor or some scientist or an astronaut, or they think that we're going to, you know, become the CEO of Amazon, or they think we're going to be Christian forever, and that we're going to grow up and, you know, marry someone and have 2 kids, house and a pool and 2 cars. It's like, okay, well, yeah, but no. It's like, that's sweet, that's well-meaning. Usually there's pure intentions there. And that's all conditioning. The whole point of life is to come into a place of authenticity within ourselves, and then have the guts, or at least cultivate the guts, the courage, the bravery to live true to that expression, to that authenticity. Not everyone's going to have that kind of picture perfect white picket fence life that their family either prefer that they would have, or told that they would have, or even ourselves, when we inherit or adopt these beliefs, then we think we're supposed to do that. And it's like, no. Your whole point, card pile 3, is releasing your binds to the past. You're being sort of held hostage by your own conditioning, even your expectations for yourself, because maybe no one ever directly, explicitly told you you're going to be this, or we want you to do that, but you have now carried some expectations for yourself. Hats you wear, roles you play, things you must do. You have all these, maybe not all these, but you do have a certain amount of rules for yourself that is now telling you that, you know, it's limiting you, and it's telling you, okay, well, actually, no, got to do that. So it's like, well, let's back this up. You know, what's truer for you? What's more aligned with your values? What do you actually truly want? When you're 100% honest with yourself, and if you believe that you were supported no matter what you did or what you chose, what would you choose? What would you do? If you knew that there would be no consequence for any of your choices, what would you choose? What would you do? That's going to get you closer to your truth, where you're not feeling like there's any kind of ramifications, implications, upsets, or consequences for a choice you might make that would rock the boat. Especially because card pile 3, it's lining up here that your whole journey, this whole point, whatever it is you're moving through right now, especially when it comes to stepping into your life's work, your purpose path, greater abundance, is around being true to you, being authentic to you, following your own alignment, and releasing your ties to the past or any bondage to conditioning that tells you to limit yourself, or that you can't do something, or that you won't do something, or that you have to play a certain role or wear a certain hat, and so on and so forth. Yeah, what wants to come? Yeah. What wants to come, this greater maturity comes, this blossoming, this flowering into your greater potential, into this embodiment, this next phase, this next season, this next era of what you want. That whatever you want happens as a result of you releasing these old stories, this old baggage, these old belief systems, these, oh, I can't, I won't, I could never, it wouldn't work out, I can't right now for these reasons, I said I was going to do this, you know, so on and so forth. I'm just remembering something that I forgot in card pile 2. It's like dropping in and saying, you didn't finish this thought. Oops. Hopefully they get it. Maybe I'll leave a note. But yeah, this is about you. I mean, every single card is about you releasing your ties to the past, what you thought it was going to be, projections for the future, expectations, all these ideas that people have for you, that you have for you, that you've adopted, and now they've become your holy grail. It's like all of that's, I mean, it's relevant and valid to the extent that it is, but then it's also not. It's like, that's not it. You know, it doesn't have to be it. You can make it it, but then you can't be upset that the things that you want ultimately aren't happening or coming true for you. So yeah, you're going through this deep purification process. So likely many of you feel like you're being brought into the heat of a flame, like you're directly in the flames and things are burning. You know, you might feel the heat, literally, like things might not be working out at work, things might not be working out at home, things feel really tight, things feel really impossible, things feel really like tight, and like again, you feel like you're being put against the heat of the flame. There is a saying for this, isn't there? You're in it, and it's because it's trying to burn away all the bullshit. God, Great Spirit, Cosmos, Universe, yourself, your creative self, your higher self, whatever, however, whatever label you use, it's trying to put you there so that way all the bullshit can burn. Let it burn. All that wants to go away so that you, your true self, whatever it is you actually truly want at the deepest level of you, even right now consciously what you want, but you're telling yourself you can't have, anything in the way of that wants to burn. And so you might feel like you are literally in the flames. It might feel very difficult for you right now. It might feel like things are going to ashes, or that things are going to shit, or shit's hitting the fan, or things aren't working out. And so again, that's just more fuel for your belief that nothing's going to work out and it can't happen for you. But in fact, it's actually about you releasing your conditioning and your limitation. And that was that all along. Any baggage, anything that's at all holding you back from what you truly, deeply, ultimately want isn't going to be the truth. It's just not. And you can live there for as long as you want. We talked earlier that there's free will and there's sovereignty, but let me tell you, we talked about this, I think, in every pile. Life will always move us to our higher potential. It's designed that way. It has no choice but to evolve us. That's why things evolve. That's why, apes evolved to us, or however it all worked, because I believe that there's an interplay there between divine intelligence and natural selection and everything else that happens with evolution. But we're meant to grow, we're meant to evolve. We can't stop that process. It is inevitable. So while it is our choice ultimately to decide whether we move forward or not, progress or not, once it's in our awareness, it's in our field, it's almost like an inevitability. And we can either choose the conscious, active, participating way, where we choose to be an active participant in our healing and our growth and do the things, or we can wait for God to knock down the door. Rock bottoms. Yeah. And I prefer not that. I do sometimes as a human, because I'm like everybody else, where I end up waiting and I don't make the move or do the thing, and then rock bottom happens and I have no choice but to do the thing. But as we know, God first knocks at the door, and then he bangs at the door, and then he barges the darn thing down. So as an example is, we might be addicted to sweets. A really simple example to ground this for everybody. We might be addicted to sweets. We know we got to change it. We don't. We keep on doing it. We might change it here, change it there. I'll do it for a little while. You're a week free. You go back to it. And then after 20 years, you develop diabetes. Eventually, you'll be forced to make that change. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the simplest one. It's the only one that came up, but it will go for anything. Anything that isn't ultimately true must fall away to bring forth what is true. Anything that is not love must fall away to become love. We have no choice but to embody what we are to become, what we already are. We have no choice but to embody the traits, the qualities of what is oneness consciousness, what is consciousness source itself, what is spirit. Eventually, we're evolving toward that, right? That's the whole point of all this whole spiral, circle, whatever it is we're doing, to eventually become God itself and return to the light, return to source, ultimately as a soul. It all spawned out into differentiation. Eventually, we'll all come back to oneness, which requires us to become it and embody the qualities of that. And so regardless, anything that is not sustainable, that is not authentic, that is not love, that is not true, will fall away one way or the other, whether we choose it or not. So God will eventually barge your door down. Does it to me and does it to everybody else. It's just how it works. And you'll be forced to make these changes. Again, once that seed is dropped, once you already have the clarity, that means that's the time to start moving toward that. And if you can't do it yourself, God, life, Great Spirit, Universe will do it for you. Now, the trouble is when they do it for us, it doesn't always feel good. It's like a gift, but wrapped in dog shit. And we're like, oh, but this is a gift, but it looks like it's dog shit. And maybe that's what happened to card pile 1 and card pile 2, actually. You'd have to go back and listen to those to know what I'm talking about. But some people watch it all the way through and they know what I'm saying. Where it's like something comes through that's really traumatic, very difficult, a huge challenge, obstacle, something that feels like a curse or condemnation and or the crucifixion, but it's actually the rebirth. It's actually the coming of Christ, our own second coming. It's actually us being birthed into our higher selves. It's the good thing, the next level, but it always comes in a package that looks like dog shit at first. So one way or the other, we will become our full whole selves, but it does feel better and it's a little bit easier on us when we choose it actively as an engaged participant. So card pile 3, your reading, your career and money is all about you taking the necessary action and doing the necessary things that you're saying that you can't do, or that you won't, or that won't happen for you, or can't work out, or whatever kind of excuses or practical limitations you have in mind. Remember, you can go back to the outrageous list. You can take the baby step, the first step. It doesn't have to be the whole shebang. It does not have to be the whole quantum leap. You're here just to honor the path. Your true north is that clarity that has already dropped for you. And I haven't given it to you because it's saying in 2 different cards here that you already have it. You already know what you're meant to do. And if you don't know everything, you know enough to argue with it, and you know at least the very first step. And you're telling yourself all these reasons why you can't. You're being put to the fire over it too. You feel a lot of things falling away as a result. So you're being asked to begin to move forward in whatever way you can to honor that inkling, that inclination, the clarity that you have received. And that fire is going to continue to purify you and release, dissolve, and resolve anything that's in the way of what it is that you truly ultimately want. What is true for you in terms of purpose, path, career, money, abundance. All of that's going to fall away through this purification by fire. But remember, it can be a little bit easier if you choose to begin moving in the direction of a lot of the work is done for you because you're doing it, as opposed to life having to do it for you, which is usually, again, that purification by fire. And it doesn't feel very good. And this is all about you releasing your conditioning and ways of the past, things you've been taught and told, expectations and projections that you have for yourself, what you've adopted and inherited, what other people had for you, so you can come into your true, authentic form. That's what's going to bring you that next step in career and that next level in money. All right, card pile 3, if this lands for you, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. Do like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications in the future for any other readings. If you want to get to know more about me, my work, coaching, support, and or intuitive personal readings, you can go to erritygreen.com/shop or check out the link below. And I do have 2 other fun YouTube channels if you'd like to join those communities over there. They're linked below: Psychic True Crime and Wise Women Television. Thank you, card pile 3, and I'll see you next time.